What's the biggest animal to ever fly? Pterosaurs could very well be the answer. Growing to the size of a modern giraffe, pterosaurs had a wingspan of up to 10 to 11 meters. That's the same wingspan of some airplanes. What's crazier is that pterosaurs are the oldest vertebrate known to fly. Talk about starting off big. So how could something so tall even fly? Despite their size, these reptiles, that's right, reptiles, were actually a lot lighter than giraffes. Their bones were thin and loaded with air pockets. This means that pterosaurs were actually a quarter of the weight of giraffes today. Their light bodies meant it took much less power to push themselves into the air and stay there. Being the first didn't mean they were rookies either. They could fly at a speed of around 80 miles per hour. That's 10 miles per hour more than today's largest flying animal, the albatross. They flew at a height of 4.5 kilometers, 12 times the height of the Empire State Building. They could even stay in the air for as long as a week at a time, meaning they could fly more than the length of oceans. That's if they could fly. After all, the many flying lizards we have today don't really fly, but rather glide from one place to another. Although paleontologists found that pterosaurs didn't live near high places like cliffs, areas where reptiles could jump and glide from. Rather, pterosaurs may have had a really neat method of vaulting from the ground using its knees and wings. Once in the air, it was likely that these giants had to flap their wings to stay there. We know that the tallest mammals walking the earth today are giraffes. But how tall can a mammal get? Look back at Eurasia, 23 to 34 million years ago in the Oligocene epoch to find your answer. This giant is known as the Paraceratherium, which means near the hornless beast. This is because, despite not having horns, this mammal was actually a genus of rhinoceros. That's right, it actually isn't the horns that make a rhino. Rather, it's down to their pi and L-shaped molars. In fact, dozens of millions of years ago, there were loads of different kinds of rhinos with this same feature. Paraceratherium by a long shot, however, was the biggest of them all. Paraceratherium was like a combination of the best parts of today's animals. It had a really long neck like giraffes today to reach high leaves, and thick column-like legs similar to elephants to support its gargantuan frame. Although despite their elephant-like legs, they seem to be very good at running. We know this by comparing the Paraceratherium to its ancestors such as the Hyraceus, who were known to be great runners. Paraceratherium had much longer legs than elephants today, much closer to its smaller tapir-like rhino ancestor. Its humerus and femur were shorter and lower limb bones longer. The Paraceratherium would be the result of millions of years of evolution from these much smaller running rhinos. We're really lucky to actually have fossils that show this gradual increase in size, from the Hyraceus to the Papaceras to the Juchia. We can see necks getting longer and skeletons getting taller until we get to the Paraceratherium, which stood 4 to 6 meters tall and 7.5 meters long, up to triple the size of a modern rhino. Its head alone measures 1 1/3 meters across. It is thought that they could weigh up to 20 tons, the maximum limit scientists say a mammal will ever be able to get. You think scorpions today are scary? How about ones that are bigger than us humans? No, I'm not talking about some fantasy monster in a video game or TV show from the 80s. These giant scorpions really existed millions of years ago. Sea scorpions once ruled the ocean and came in a wide range of shapes and sizes. The biggest, however, may be the 2.5 meter or 8 foot long Gigantopithecus, but their sizes aren't the only frightening thing about them. They share the same breathing method as these alien-like creatures, horseshoe crabs. Animals that are still alive today and are known as a living fossil, and definitely something to talk about in another video. Scorpions today breathe through something known as book lungs, having evolved from their more aquatic ancestors' book gills. When the line between land scorpions and sea scorpions separated, sea scorpions chose to keep their gills. But don't think you're safe just yet, because alongside these gills, sea scorpions actually had a second way of breathing called chemoplaton, which acted like a lung, meaning these monsters could also take trips to land. And that's not the only thing going for the sea scorpion either. They were really a jack of all trades when it came to evolution. Starting off as tiny arthropods such as the Brachyopterus, filter feeding off the seafloor on their tiny limbs, and then developing paddles that help them swim and compete for bigger food alongside fish and cephalopods. From this, the diversity of different kinds of sea scorpions exploded, with different evolutionary superpowers that fit their very special environments. The most successful of all was probably the pterygotids, one of the only sea scorpions that explored the open oceans and dominating wherever they went. Pterygotids were arguably the king of sea scorpions when it came to their anatomy. Their exoskeletons were light and they had flattened tails called telson, meaning they could swim really, really fast. They had forward-facing eyes with thousands of lenses, making it easy to spot prey. And they had raptor-like mouth appendages. Yes, appendages for your mouth, called chelicera, that were so strong, they are usually the only parts of pterygotids that are found fossilized. You know, you can learn a lot from just looking at someone's teeth. That may be a weird thing to say in a video list of 4 of the biggest animals of all time, but if it weren't for its teeth alone, we may have not ever known of the biggest ape to have ever lived, the Gigantopithecus. The most complete fossil we have of this beast is of a jaw, but with just a few jaws and a bunch of teeth, it's crazy how much we know about the life of these giants. Standing at around 3 meters tall and weighing 500 kilograms, the Gigantopithecus blackie was about double the size of a gorilla today. Its molars were 2.5 centimeters wide, double the width of human teeth, and a study of these teeth showed that its closest living descendant may have been the orangutan. These animals lived during an ice age, spending their lives mostly on the ground in dense forests, unlike orangutans who like hanging out in trees. An unfortunate similarity between the two, however, is how these apes vanished. The ice age they lived under, the Pleistocene, saw constant climate change. Every 10 to 20,000 years, the land around them would freeze over, before melting the next 10 to 20,000 years, allowing the forest to grow again. The Gigantopithecus would hold out through many of these cycles, but eventually there was a cold snap so severe that Gigantopithecus would disappear from the fossil record. Loss of habitat is a big reason animals drop in numbers and at many times go extinct, which may sadly be happening to orangutans today, who are losing their habitat through deforestation and wildfires. Because of this, all species of orangutans are critically endangered, having lost a great majority of their home. It's up to us humans to make sure our orange cousins don't meet the same fate as the mighty Gigantopithecus.